Charles, what are some of the worst things people are commonly doing causing acne, aging, and wrinkles?
Man, Ben, first of all, it's great to see you.
Welcome back, my friend.
What we figured out was a little over a year ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
About 13 months ago you were on.
13 months ago.
You had the mustache before looking like Ted Lasso. Now you just sound like Ted Lasso.
Well, thank you. It'll come back one day. Chapters and stages. So skin, acne, aging, I would wrap that into probably three big areas. Diet, obviously. And then what are you putting on your skin now? And then the third piece, which we can start here, we are so over sanitized.
Yes.
Okay. And that obviously was something that got way worse in the last 3 or 4 years with just this sort of germ phobia, hyper cleansing. So I like to talk about it in terms of the last 100 years, because our skin, our biology are way older than that. And I'll start first with what does it mean to be dirty, Ben? Because when we sanitize, right, you're in theory you're washing things off. Well, feeling dirty is I've sweat, or my body has overproduced or maybe just produced oil, sebum, right? We make oil, and that oil, if it gets a little heavy on the skin, or again, post-workout sweat, you've got you got salts that have dried on your skin, but you've also got particulate matter, dust, dirt, grime, that have found their way to clinging to our skin because of this oily substance. Running reliable hot water is a technology that is only about 100 years old for the broad population of humans on this planet, and most humans on this planet still don't have it. But let's focus here in America. And so, again, you've got soaps, you've got cleansers, you've got all these various things. One of the things I've been encouraging people to do is to just put all that down. We have a soap product. We'll talk about it later, but just put all of that down. Take a washcloth and take warm running water and use that to cleanse your skin. What are we doing when we do that? Well, we're not artificially stripping away these natural oils. We're sort of taking off the extra, trimming the fat, if you will. Mm-hmm. So we're not damaging our sort of this natural balance of oils on our skin. We're not killing or disturbing our microbiome. This is a huge topic that we need to learn a whole lot more about. And we're also not artificially drying our skin. Again, you strip those oils away, and the body's going to react. It's, we're dry. Time to produce more oil. And so acne specifically, I've had 4 or 5 conversations over the last few days around this specifically, and I would add the caveat on acne. If you're a child coming into and experiencing puberty, so let's just pack this up in like age 12 up to, I would even say up to 25. We're growing. Then there's a little bit of caveat to, we may not be able to solve all your issues. I would argue we can, but I can't give you a guarantee. But there's a lot of hormones going on, and there's a lot of growth going on, production, underproduction, overproduction of these oils. But I will say this, so we've got the hyper cleanliness. I think that's harming our skin and drying us out.
And let's unpack the hyper cleanliness. That means people that are using these sanitizer sprays, the Purell, they're showering 3-4 times a day using these antibacterial soaps. They're overdoing it. That's what you mean.
They're overdoing it, and I do want to clarify that because people stare at me like I've got 3 heads. I'm not saying don't shower. I shower every day, plus a cold plunge every now and then when I come see my buddy Ben. But no, I'm not discouraging you rinsing and washing your body. So yes, let's unpack that a little bit more. You've got soap, and then you've got all these chemical cleansers. It's prolific in the acne world. Mm-hmm. The cleansing strips, the alcohol strips, all these various things. But even boiling it down to just basic soap. Well, first and foremost, make sure you're using soap. So if you're extra dirty and want to wash off the day, make sure that on the label it says soap. We developed a particularly effective disinfectant during World War II for wound care on the battlefield. Remarkable product. You get shot or stabbed, this stuff's going to get in there and really destroy all the bacteria and microbes that are there. Post-World War II, they're like, man, we're really good at making this stuff. How can we incorporate it into beauty products? And so they commissioned the FDA to approve this ingredient. I can't remember the name of it, but we could Google it.
Is it commonly found in cleaning products?
It's commonly found in skincare cleansers that aren't. So here was what the FDA said. They said you can use it, but you can't label the product soap. So Dove Beauty Bar is maybe the most common example of this. If it doesn't say soap, leave it on the shelf.
So that doesn't say soap. That says beauty bar.
That's right.
Red flag.
So soap is a short term for saponification, which is the process of taking lye and a fat. Soap is a fat-based product, and you combine them. Okay, so saponification, soap is an abbreviation of that process. And so definitely put any bar or cleanser, body wash, anything that doesn't say soap, please do not put that, because the cleansing agents in that product are arguably some of the worst. Okay, so that's on that side. And then you've got all these, again, with acne especially, that people are super marketed with these cleansing strips, and it's all alcohol-based. And again, it's not that alcohol doesn't have a purpose in our world, but it's few and far between. Wound care, alcohol's great. We need to get the open wound cleaned up, and then seal it up with some lard or petroleum jelly if you have it. But you want to close off the wound,
of course.
So yeah, these petroleum based, cleaning based pads and barriers, they're actually doing what soap does, but at a hyper accelerated rate. They go on and they evaporate very quickly, so it's super drying. And I would say, specifically to acne, I think Accutane is one of the most nefarious and awful products for our skin on the market, full stop.
Wow.
And it's the most prescribed product for people suffering with acne.
These dermatologists will be so willing to prescribe Accutane without asking these people, what are you eating? Let's look at your nutrition. There's the majority of these conversations that is never coming up in the conversation. So why is Accutane so harmful? You said it's the most nefarious, worst product out there. Why is it so bad for us?
Well, a couple things. So when you get into pharmaceutical grade skin creams, okay, what you have is a base cream that is then injected, if you will, or mixed or compounded with the active ingredients. Okay, so Accutane, think skincare at large, pharmaceutical grade skincare at large. You're going to take the cheapest, nastiest base cream ingredients. You're going to emulsify them together and make this, again, think about a vat of cream they ship to the compounding pharmacy, and then when it's time to formulate an Accutane or any other, we're seeing all sorts of creams now. You got hormone cream, HRT, you've got those creams. A cream is a very, very common method for applying a pharmaceutical grade ingredient. Our skin eats things, right?
Yeah.
And so we want to feed it. So you take the absolute cheapest stuff out there, and then also fold in the dermatology. The field of dermatology is similarly captured. I know this is not news to your audience, but is similarly captured by big pharma as we see in the standard MD world. The American Academy of Dermatology, the preeminent clinical organization, certifications and all that, continuing education, they have 27 corporate sponsors. All of them are big pharma, right?
Wow.
And so
I didn't know that, and I'm not surprised. That's crazy.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
It's
always the epidermis that gives us trouble on these interviews. So we're hyper sanitized, and worse than that, when we do sanitize, we're using products that are just, think about like a paint stripper. It's you want to strip this stuff off your couch or your lawn equipment. It's
aggressive.
It's very, very aggressive, and it's again, in the evolution of human biology, most of this stuff is less than 60 years old. And so I've found myself saying this a lot. 99% of the stuff we put on our skin today, our biology has no idea what that is.
Wow. So it's completely foreign to the body. The body doesn't know how to deal with it.
That's right.
It starts to sequester them maybe in our cells, store it as a toxin or whatever. It's weird processes are happening that are not physiologically normal. We're not designed or used to these chemicals coming into our body, and our body's trying to figure out what do we do with this.
And worse than that, we haven't developed the physiological response necessarily to warn us. Huh. So you eat something that doesn't agree with you.
You throw up,
right?
You get nauseous.
You throw up, you get
salivate.
nauseous, you get diarrhea, all these various things, right? We have this very old system of exit quickly. Something doesn't agree with me. Again, think about historically, we're only 60, 70, 80, be aggressive. We're only 100 years into exposing our skin to a lot of these compounds. Now, if anyone's ever had poison ivy, we have some mechanisms in place to respond to deleterious oils. I mean, that's poison ivy is the oil on the planet. It gets on your skin and you break out. Most people break out. And so we've got these mechanisms in place for things that we recognize, but the skin, again, think in nature. There's very, very few very, very noxious compounds that weren't also accompanied by, say, heat or cold or, battery acid. How old is battery acid? Not that old, but it's highly acidic. We'd have a pain point. But in terms of like these chemicals, our skin doesn't have a response for that. That's most of the testing in skincare is to make sure the testing in skincare, it's been outsourced to all the manufacturers, similar to like testing shots and testing other drugs. The FDA pushes product testing into the hands of the manufacturer, okay? And they're testing those products for will this harm you? That's a very different goal than will this help you, right? So all this testing is being done to make sure that whatever it is we're rubbing on you is not going to have you breaking out in hives tomorrow. So they push that envelope all the way to the brink. Forget about endocrine disruption, forget about microbiome disruption. They care little about that. It's just what is going to symptomatically be the skin's response to the application of this product.
So that's so evil. I mean, they're just trying to see if it's going to create a reaction, but even if it's disrupting your hormones, it's creating other problems that you can't see right away, they're fine with that because they're just trying to see that it's not harming you right then and there. So with acne, we know Accutane is problematic. You mentioned it's very aggressive. It could have some negative effects on the gut microbiome and the bacteria in our bodies and on our skin. Mm-hmm. Nutrition plays a big role with acne. I have noticed personally when I do too much dairy, for example, I will probably get like a pimple here and there. Like if I do too much dairy, personally, I get some acne sometimes. Now, when I swap over to maybe raw dairy versus pasteurized, that won't happen as often. Or if I go over to like sheep or goat dairy, I'm a little bit more safe than pasteurized cow dairy. But what are some other foods that are commonly causing acne?
Well, I would say sugar-rich foods, carbohydrate-rich foods, generally across the board. Your skin wants to be healthy, okay, and just like the rest of your body. And so, from a nutritional standpoint, we need to make sure we're getting plenty of animal-based fats and proteins. Any of the added sugars, obviously, we can't draw a direct line to this, but all the preservatives and the various fake sugars that are put in these hyper palatable highly processed foods, that's all damaging our gut. I can't necessarily tie a direct cause or correlation to gut health with skin health, but this is a complete system. And so to the degree that I would say that the biggest problem with food and skin is the absence of nutrition, not necessarily the presence of sugars and preservatives.
Interesting.
Most people aren't, most people aren't eating enough animal fat, animal protein in their diet. And I would include eggs and various things. You mentioned dairy. Dairy is Mother Nature's human growth hormone, right? So it's a very powerful, if you look at the thermogenics of cow's milk specifically, a cow is born at 100 pounds, grows to be 2,000. Cow's milk is delicious, and I've sort of gone raw recently. But you will see, so if you think about a spectrum of people's response to dairy, you'll see people make improvements, obviously, with cow's milk going to raw. And then also, and I make this recommendation a lot, sheep's or goat's milk, again, the thermogenics. What is this milk designed to feed? Well, a goat or a sheep is born at maybe 5-10 pounds and grows to maybe 100. And so if you think about what that fuel source is designed to do, it's a little bit more aligned with a human body type, right? And so we see that goat's milk is naturally homogenized, which is kind of cool. You don't see this separation of fat from the rest of the milk. And so but at the end of the day, milk is, look at every other creature on the planet. I love milk. Been making raw milk ice cream. But every other animal, mammal on the planet weans itself off of dairy at a young age and then goes on to forage and do whatever it's going to do, whether that be herbivores, omnivores, or carnivores. Again, making the argument, it's one of the greatest technological advancements humans have been able to do is to rear animals that we can then harvest their dairy. And of course, you've got fermentation, the kefirs, the yogurts, all of those fun things. So I don't take dairy off the table, but it's, again, you got to remember, it's a very, very potent source of nutrition. And specific to acne, what are we talking about? We're talking about an overproduction of oil. We're also talking about an improper ability to keep the skin clear of foreign objects that clog pores. Comedogenic is the term for pore clogging. And, so again, back to Accutane, back to all these industrial products, what ingredients in there are recognizable by your body? Because everything else that's foreign has the potential to clog a pore because it's this foreign substance. And so it sort of ties all together. But, again, staying on this nutrition topic, make sure you're eating enough. I consider sleep another vitamin or mineral. So make sure you're getting enough sleep, but incorporating enough animal-based fats and protein into your diet is critical because that's going to give your skin the internal ingredients, if you will, to produce, optimal levels of sebum, to sweat properly, to form all the functions. This semi-permeable, our largest organ, called our second stomach, dermis, right? So give it the ingredients to thrive.
The cool thing about the skin is that skin cells regenerate about every 30 days or so. So you could see some results pretty quickly within a month after making these changes. With wrinkles and more anti-aging, like glowing skin, soft skin, one of the things I learned from you, Charles, on our last interview about a year ago were these anti-aging creams and these nighttime creams that are intended, or marketed, I should say, for anti-aging, for wrinkle control, diminishing fine lines and wrinkles. The first ingredient in many of those products is water. Mm-hmm. And you were sharing with me why that's actually a red flag. I'd love for you to share more about that.
Well, if you're familiar with the evaporative cooling process or just general evaporation, so most people will put a store-bought cream on. It's look at the ingredients. The first one is water or agua.
Same thing, by the way.
The same thing. They'll throw that agua in there, and so you smear the cream on. And it goes on wet, but then very quickly it's dried. And so forgetting for a second all the chemicals in there that are harmful, they're also using, generally speaking, they're using a plant or a seed oil-based fat or a petroleum derivative. Again, all of those things are very, very new to our biology. We don't recognize them. So we're going to absorb them less. But you put that cream on and, in 2 minutes, your skin's dry. Well, what's happened is as you spread it out, that water evaporates, right? And so as it evaporates, it will pull moisture that is already in your skin along with it. And so modern industrial skincare, I hate to tell you this, is actually drying and aging your skin faster.
It's crazy. So moisturizers are doing the exact opposite if it has water as the first ingredient.
It's just like the diet industry, man. It's built on failure. Now, in the short run, because again, they can put these various compounds in there. They can the placebo effect is very strong.
Yes,
so
that is
the
true.
consumers buying this, having seen someone that came along and, oh my gosh, look at these results, and pictures tell 1,000 lies, and so they think it's working. I tell people all the time, most creams, even Botox, I cannot compete with them in a day or a week. But you give me a month, you give me the rest of your life, you give me, most of our customers now tell me that they use or need less of our product now than they did, 2 years ago when they started, lathering up with the lard. I think that's the best testimonial I can give. Our product works so well that you need less of it. The industry is drying your skin faster than it should. You mentioned wrinkles. We're scared to death of the sun.
Yeah.
Okay.
The sun is evil.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Well, the sun is evil, and again, rewind the clock 100 years. 100 years ago, if it was noon, even here in Miami, if someone was on the beach, they would be clothed. Most people weren't on the beach. They were indoors working, having a siesta, whatever. The sun exposure came early in the day and late in the evening. Direct sun exposure.
Yeah.
And so we've had this uptick of sunscreens, and it's really it gives the consumer the confidence that they can spend 4 hours in direct sunlight on a Friday afternoon next to the pool or out on South Beach, and you've got chemical derived versus mineral derived sun blocking agents. Those aren't good. All these oxybenzones and various other compounds.
And when they're outside, when it's hot, isn't that opening up their pores even more?
Yes.
For these to actually be
sweating
delivered more efficiently?
Absolutely. And so you've got all these, listen, everybody loves a good day in the sun. We've been psyoped into thinking that it's normal to spend 4 consecutive hours outside during the hottest part of the day uncovered. And so, if I take my kids to the beach, we're working on a sun-based product.
Oh, yeah, nice.
But if I take my kids to the beach, it's, let's get up early, let's hit the beach, come 11 o'clock, getting to be about that time, let's go back, have lunch, we'll play a board game, we'll play some cards, watch a movie, and then 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, let's hit it again. Both my kids, younger kids, swim. I've told this story a couple of times. I'm at a swim meet this summer. It's 6:30 in the evening at an outdoor pool. Now, it's summertime, so the sun's right there. And I look around, and everyone's putting sunscreen on. And it's like, hey, guys, you don't even need it right now. Like, it's impossible to get sunburned right now, and yet everyone's, lathering up with this chemical-laden goop. And so, again, it's been driven into our heads. If you're in the sun, put this on. Rather than, depending on the time of year, here's a good rule of thumb. I think I mentioned this the last time. If your shadow is taller than you are, you're not getting sunburned. Period. Full stop. So that's a really good way to, if you're out and about and you don't have your app, telling you.
Look at your shadow.
Yeah, look at your shadow.
If it's taller than you are, you're not going to be sunburned.
Correct.
And when you eat clean and get seed oils out of your diet, and get inflammatory fats like trans fats out of your diet and high sugar carbohydrate diets, and you start eating more of an animal-based nutrition with clean fats, saturated fats and monounsaturated fats, you're less likely to burn. Like even with the midday stuff, on Sundays, I play basketball midday, right? And I go to Miami Beach, we go to a park, it's an outdoor park, and we play usually from 11 a.m. to like 1:30, and we're outside the whole time. Yep. I don't use any sunscreen. And that's midday, but I don't burn because I'm eating clean. My body has healthy cells. I'm not eating seed oils. Like the cleaner you eat, the less likely you are to be burned when you're outside as well.
Yeah, if you think about it in terms of how your immune system works, okay? The more assets you give your body to fight off diseases, the more energy it has to devote to that. Your skin, again, your billboard, your largest organ, the more you're feeding it nutrient-dense foods, the more you're not inflaming, lighting a fire internally, whether that be gastrointestinally or just once a lot of these high omega-6 fats are getting into your system, the more you can remove all of that from the equation, the more you're giving, whether it's your skin, your liver, your jaw, your muscles, you're giving all of that permission to respond to and deal with stress. And sun is stress. It's external stress. And so let's give it the tools to fend off that stress or respond appropriately to it.
Hey, I want to just briefly interrupt the video you're watching to share something with you. One of my favorite companies that I use for health and longevity and biohacking is a company called Bon Charge. And they have a whole range of incredible products, including the blue light blocking glasses you see me wear right now. But one of my favorite products from them is an infrared sauna blanket. Sauna blanket works by raising your heart rate to a workout or a training session. So you burn more calories while you're actually lying down and relaxing. Also, it's going to cause you to sweat. And one method of flushing out toxins from your body is through sweat. There's also one of my favorite benefits, this endorphin release. Every time I get out of the sauna blanket, I feel like I just got a 60-minute massage. So it's easy to set up. It's super convenient. Head over to boncharge.com/KetoCamp. And if you use the coupon code KetoCamp at checkout, you'll get 15% off your sauna blanket. And actually, any of their products are 15% off with that code. All right, let's get back to today's video. With the ingredient of water, when we're looking for that in a product, and I'm sure somebody watching or listening, you probably already have gone to your cabinet and looked at your ingredients to see if it has water as the first ingredient. Are we only avoiding it if it has water as the first ingredient, or should water not be in the ingredients at all?
Well, so there's three parts to an emulsified product. If you see water, that product is emulsified. Everyone knows fat and water don't get along, and so if there is water in the recipe,
it needs to be
in the ingredients, then you have to have an emulsifier and a preservative. Water is the ingredient in skincare that feeds bacteria. You've cooked bacon before, and you pour the drippings in a coffee cup, and you forget it's on your kitchen counter, and it's there for months. Pick it up. Oh, wow, there's nothing going on in there. By nature, fat is an antibacterial, antimicrobial environment. I just sent our product off for third-party lab testing for microbes because we're going to finally develop a sample size.
That's awesome.
Yeah, cannot wait. But, to run it through this co-packer and put in these little tear-off things, we got to make sure there's no active microbes in your product before we run it through our very expensive filling system.
Yeah.
Sure. And of course, I've got this all natural, no preservatives product. So I shipped this stuff off with a little bit of knots in my stomach. And sure enough, came back clean as a whistle. Nothing, because there's no fuel. Okay, so water is the ingredient. 3 pieces to emulsified skincare: water. And then you've got, on the other end of the spectrum, you've got a fat. Now, in the skincare world, you have a spectrum of fats. Think bad, good, better, best. Okay. Now, I'm making the argument lard is out here on the best. Certainly, tallow's out there as well.
Yeah.
Any animal-based fat, even Lord, chicken fat. Even we share less biology with chickens, but it would somehow might not smell the best, but it's out here on the spectrum. And then behind that, you've got what I would say are plant-based fats. Now, again, they may be comedogenic. Coconut oil is probably the most common one, right? That technically probably could clog your pores, but we've had a skincare relationship with coconut oil for a long time.
Yes, we have.
Olive oil for a long time.
And those are fruit, not
They're
plant.
fruit, not seed. That's right. The oil is actually harvested from the avocado fruit, from the coconut fruit.
Yep.
Shea butter, I believe, is the same thing. It's harvested from the fruit. And so those sort of sit in this middle territory between good and okay. And then below that, you've got the seed oils and the petroleum derivatives. And so there's your spectrum of fats. Again, back to 3 pieces: water, fat on the other end, and then if you're going to bring them together, you got to have 2 components. You've got to have an emulsifier. If you're doing it all natural, you could do like a beeswax or something like that, and you have to have a preservative. In the early product development days of me discovering how the lard works in mysterious ways, I went to Google. How do I make a skin cream using this fat? And of course, it was an emulsifier. It was the most luscious product you've ever seen until 6-7 days later, it turns black, goes rancid, and smells like death, right? Because the water is feeding. Think about airborne. I can't even put the lid on before something in the air. We coexist with trillions of microorganisms, and so there's your three components. Okay, and so where were we going here? This was making the creams, drying our skin. So it's those preservatives. So, you asked if water's in it, should we beware?
If it's not the first ingredient.
If it's not the first ingredient, if it's on the ingredient list, then you've got to have a preservative in there. Okay.
Just
now,
because to mix with fat, it doesn't mix with fat. You need to have something to.
You have to have a preservative.
Make it emulsify.
Unless you want. Well, you have to have an emulsifier and a preservative.
So an emulsifier and a preservative if it contains fat and water.
Correct, because you want the fat and the water to mix. That's the emulsifier, and then you don't want it to go bad. So that's the preservative.
Got it.
Now, on the spectrum of preservatives and emulsifiers, there's a spectrum of, I would say, really bad, not so bad, and maybe good. I'm doing a lot of research in that department right now.
Share it with us. What's the bad to good?
Well, it's early in my research.
Okay.
Again, back to, there's a lot of hullabaloo in the dietary world right now. We see it in skincare too, but the GRAS designation, generally recognized as safe. So there's a lot of stuff out there that's generally recognized as safe that I would contend has not been properly tested. Okay. And again, what are you testing it for?
Yeah.
And how long are you testing it? We see this in food. We see it in drugs. We see it across the spectrum. Here's what I can boil this down pretty simply. There's a high likelihood that if it has water in it, then it has arguably the harshest and most endocrine disrupting compounds acting as your emulsifier and your preservative in that product. Okay. So it's best to just put that stuff away, not take it off the shelf. But if you had to, then at least try to find one that's got plant-based fats. You're not going to find an animal fat-based product unless you go to Amazon in a pinch.
We're going to talk about my story in a second. Yeah.
So if it's water-based, if it's got water in it, I would tell you, as a general rule of thumb, avoid it.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. All right, so now that we unpacked what not to do, let's discuss what's the best way to take care of our skin, avoid acne, reverse acne, anti-age, take care of wrinkles, and that's beef and lard. You mentioned beef and lard being super beneficial. You have a company, Farrow Skin. For those watching on YouTube, and if you watched our previous interview about a year ago, we talked about it. You have some new products now, but we have a line of products here that I've been using. These are fat... what's the best way to say it, Charles? These are fat-focused moisturizers or fat-based products.
Animal fat-based skincare.
And I don't see water here. Like, for example, this is the one that I've been using lately. You can see it's almost done. This one only has beef tallow, lard, leaf lard, honey, essential oils that include grapefruit, lavender, and sandalwood. So I've been using this one in the morning after I wash my face. I'll put this on to moisturize. I've been putting this on right before bed. Tell us more about what this is doing for my skin and for those who get it for their skin.
Yeah, so we use 3 fats. You named them off there. If you hear the term tallow is a placeholder term for the rendered visceral fat from a ruminant animal. Now, that's most commonly a cow. But you can have elk tallow, bison tallow, but importantly, it's the visceral fat. So it's internal organ fat. This is sort of the kidney fat of the animal, which that fat functions as sort of like a seatbelt for your kidneys.
Yeah.
So we run into things. We have impacts.
Cushion.
It's like an airbag cushion. Okay. So from a biology standpoint, the function of that fat is not to store things, right? And so I think this is probably one of the reasons why you see such such a boon in tallow companies launching. I mean, I feel like, and I love tallow. We use it in our products. I feel like there's a new tallow brand launching about every week. And that's great. We kill a lot of beef in this country, and you can harvest the visceral fat from that animal, right? Even if it comes from the industrial food model, because of the protection that viscera offers the fat. Because if there's an injectable or a hormone or an antibiotic or poor metabolic health or diet, any of that stuff, that is going to more manifest in the subcutaneous fat. Now, we never see subcutaneous beef fat because most of the time, all of that fat is used in creating the grinds. So, with 80-20 grind or 70-30 if you're a boss like me.
Is that what you do?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I go 70-30 every time I can. And so most of the subcutaneous fat, also cows and most ruminants, it's very difficult to pack on subcutaneous fat. I mean, if you're grass finishing your cows, like it's going to take a little bit longer, of course, usually 2 years, and the forage needs to be really nutrient dense. Very hard to pack on subcutaneous fat. With pigs, okay, so that's tallow. With pigs, if you hear the term lard, that is a pig-specific term, okay? Pigs are very good at packing on, converting excess calories into subcutaneous fat. And because they're an omnivore, they can do that with a varied diet of all sorts of things. It's sort of the good and the bad of the pig. Lard comes from the subcutaneous fat of the pig, the belly fat, the back fat. If you ever cook your bacon, that fat, that intermuscular fat is all subcutaneous fat. Leaf lard comes from the kidney fat, visceral fat of a pig. So it's sort of the tallow equivalent.
Got it.
So again, tallow and leaf lard offer up this sort of built-in protection in terms of we haven't metabolized. You have to think like for better or for worse, but we're talking about poor environment, poor diet, all that. That's going to manifest and be stored in the animal's subcutaneous fat. Okay, so leaf lard, which we use in more prevalence in our facial product, is odorless. It's odorless fat. For your listeners that have ever tried a tallow product, I think tallow is the most odorous. It doesn't smell bad. It just has the most odor of our three fats. Leaf lard was prized as a baking fat. If you read your great-grandmother's cookbook, it was prized as a baking fat because it was odorless, and frying. It was odorless and tasteless, so it didn't impart any flavor or smell to your pie crust.
Interesting.
Or your biscuits or your cake. Excuse me. So we use those three fats. Our skin food, which is the product you were just talking about, our skin food is of the two products is a lard heavy ratio. So we use all three fats. The skin food has a higher prevalence of lard versus leaf lard, and the face food has a higher prevalence of leaf lard over lard. Most consumers know they need a facial specific product. Most consumers think this stuff's going to smell like bacon grease. It does not, by the way. It
doesn't. No, not at all.
That's right.
And this one is scented, right? This one I have here, yeah, it has essential oils. But you have ones that are not scented, correct?
Oh, we offer we'll just unpack everything on the table. So we've got face food, which you're holding now. That is our 1 ounce portable packable fun face food product. That comes in scented and unscented. The scented version has 7 ingredients. The unscented has 4.
And I've gotten the unscented. It doesn't smell like anything. And I've used both for shaving. It's my favorite shaving cream. Oh. Your products are my favorite shaving cream. It's hard to find healthy shaving cream. And
it is.
And I'm not one of those people that just shave dry. Some people do that. I'll get some nicks and cuts. So your products are my favorite shaving creams. I use it when I travel. I use it when I'm going to bed, before I go to bed, and when I wake up in the morning. I use it when I'm spending some time outside in the sun, like I mentioned, to prevent me from getting sunburned. Now, what's the history and use of lard and tallow on our skin?
Great question. So the history is that up until the industrial age, 99.9% of humans on the planet were hunting, foraging, and cooking every single possible meal that they could get their hands on. Arguably, we're starving for the better part of hundreds of thousands of years, and only in the last few thousand have we been able to at least figure some of that stuff out.
Yeah.
They were also cooking, so you think hunt and gather, that is hunting an animal, any animal, harvesting it, eviscerating it, butchering it, eating the organs on site. We used to do that all the time. Skinning the animal, so you're getting in between the skin and the muscles. So the hunter, if you will, was constantly, if they were a good hunter, was constantly in direct contact with animal fat on a weekly basis. Forget all the other stuff, plenty of sunshine, clean environment, all that. The cooker, which was predominantly the women, the cooker, the food preparers were also constantly in direct contact with animal fat. And we used to cook almost exclusively with lard. Again, turn of the century, tallow was reserved for candles and soap. If you walked into a utility general store in Miami, Florida in 1910, there is a 100% chance you walked out of that. We didn't have grocery stores. There's a 100% chance you walked out of that store with a can of lard. Tallow was over here making soap and candles, which were on their way out because of electricity and the light bulb, which is why Procter & Gamble repurposed the cottonseed oil they were making candles out of and figured out how to hydrogenate it. And so in 1911, you get the introduction of Crisco.
Yeah, yuck.
Which is bleached white to look like lard.
And it's anything but.
Oh, anything but.
So we have a long history of using fat on our skin versus the very short history of using these moisturizers and skincare products on our skin.
Yes, and we also have a long history of absolutely glowing and healthy skin.
That's true.
Okay? Skincare, gout. Gout used to be called a rich man's disease back in the early English days because the more affluence you gained, the more sugar you had access to, right? And gout is a metabolic syndrome.
Yeah.
They thought it was because of eating the fats and everything, because that would signal, that would symptomatically, you'd have a response if you had gout and were eating really fatty foods. The problem was the sugar. Sugar was expensive, and so only the rich had it. Skincare, again, has been an industry of the hyper wealthy because everyone else didn't need it. And so the further men have gotten away from hunting and gathering and butchering, and the further women have gotten, I say this as a general statement, right? Yeah. And the further the women have gotten away from scratch-made meals using animal fat, the skincare industry has been able to grow precipitously because we're not on a regular basis giving our skin the things that it needs. I know you know this, but there's a lot of people, Ben, that see remarkable skin results going carnivore.
Oh, yes.
Or even keto, but just, an animal-based keto.
Yeah.
I don't even know what keto would be like without animal fat and meat, but you see tremendous results, and I encourage people to try 30 days, 60 days of carnivore, keto, animal-centric eating. But there's still a piece missing for most folks, and that's that ongoing, again, you're not butchering your own food. Maybe you're doing your scratch-made meals, but you're just still not coming into direct contact with animal fat on a regular basis. So that's really the point of our products. Again, across any spectrum of skin problems, the closer you get to the hunting and gathering and evisceration, and the closer you get to scratch making your meals using animal fat, you will find the less and less and less, frankly, you need our products.
I love it. I love your products. I've been using it for over a year now. We have a link and a coupon code for anybody who wants to check out Farrow Skin. The website is farrow.life/KetoCamp. We'll put that text on the screen right now for those watching on YouTube, but we'll also put it in the notes for the podcast listeners. The coupon code is KetoCamp, KETOKAMP, for 15% off your order. We'll put both of that, the link and the code down below. And before we move on to the story of me learning the hard way here with other products, let's talk about these two right here. You have this one, Remember, Charles, I was opening this up in our last interview and I got it all over me. The 𝙃𝙀𝙍𝙍𝙍 base cream. What would you use this one for primarily?
I use it for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our 𝙃𝙀𝙍𝙍 only comes in scented. It's got a remarkable, very outdoorsy bergamot, basil, black spruce, and wild orange.
I'm going to be careful this time.
There's a warning on the so it comes in an aluminum tube. It's our lard heaviest product. So if again, the ratios of the fats, there's no leaf lard in that product. It's just lard and tallow at I don't want to give the formula, but it's about a 5-to-1 ratio. A little bit of honey.
I see that.
But it's our lard heaviest product. It's an aluminum tube. And so if you hold it in your hand at 98.6 degrees for all of 5 seconds, you've just melted the inner. We got to figure out a new package for it. But there's a warning on there. I tell people, open it with the top. And,
I see that.
And think about it's gonna drip out initially. But I keep it in my car, with the lid up. I put it in one of the cup holders. It's in my DOP kit when I travel. I travel with 𝙃𝙀𝙍𝙍 and our face food because the containers are smaller. I've used that thing for everything from sort of a pseudo bug repellent, aftershave, hair. I mean, all of our products can be used for pretty much anything.
It smells so good.
I love it. But that one's sort of the portable, packable. Everything's TSA compliant in terms of sizes, but I really like the smell of that one, especially if I'm sort of going outdoors. As an aftershave, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I'm going to start using it as an aftershave too.
You'll have to let me know what the missus thinks of the
I will.
𝙃𝙀𝙍𝙍.
I'm sure she'll like it. And then you have this one's a new one that I just got from you, the goat soap.
Well, we love the puns here at Farrow, and so when you combine pasture-based goat's milk with our Smart Lard technology, you get the greatest of all time soaps.
I love it.
And so we launched goat soap this year. We have 3 scents. Well, I should say 2 scents and an unscented. We've got a eucalyptus spearmint and then a cedarwood orange, handcrafted, super high integrity, and we fat the recipe just a little bit. So when you're combining lye with fat and water, the ratios are very important, just like baking. Baking is science, cooking is suggestion. And so we fat the recipe. Think about it in terms of when you're done washing off the day, there's just a tiny bit of extra lard left over to sort of coat your skin. And so I actually find myself I don't use our creams as a pre-shaving cream. I use our soap. So I'll sort of...
Oh, I'm going to do that now too, because I just got this. I haven't had it before.
Yep.
So you use that as the shaving cream. Okay, I'm going to do that. The one I hear is unscented. The one I
use it as a shampoo. I mean, I use it sort of for anything out there. But again, for your listeners, I know you're not here to smell me, but I will soap probably once a week. And it's usually sort of privates and pits and just anything. If I go get my hair cut, I'll definitely sort of, make sure I'm washing out all any leftover hair. But again, I shower every day, and it's warm water and a washcloth.
Some people think putting lard and beef tallow on your skin is going to make your skin oily. And I have not seen that to be the case. Can you talk about that? I know when you have it on at that time, it's a little oily, but what is it doing? And how would it not make your skin just oily overall with it?
Sure. Well, one of the classic blunders, actually, hand me our skin food product. Either one of them.
Okay.
There we go. So one of the classic blunders people make with our product, I'm glad you asked that question, is they put too much on. Because, again, they're used to the industrial creams that are 70% water. Yeah. And so for those that are just listening, I'm walking through my general application protocol right now. Sorry, Ben, I'm
You're stealing some of mine, bro.
I'm stealing some of your goodness. So what I have just done is I've put a pea size, just a little dab on my finger, and this goes for however I'm using any of our products. I'll put it on my hands, and then as an aftershave, I'll then put it on my skin. Man, I've been using our unscented. It's time to switch back to the scented. I love that scent.
I've been putting way too much based off of this right here.
For sure. Well, so again, with our product, when you're done putting it on, of course, I've still got a little on my hands. I'll just sort of rub it off. None goes to waste. But you'll feel like you hardly have any on. Are you going to look greasy? For a little bit. The tallow, and this is why we use all three fats. The lard, again, we share far more biology with pigs than we do cows.
I learned that from you last time.
I'm not here saying bad things about tallow. We use it in our products, but the tallow doesn't soak in as well, which is fine because it's going to sit up there and act as sort of a sealer. So the lard soaks in and the tallow sits on top.
Got it.
And so that's why I encourage people to put it on really, really thin. Is because if you put it on really thick, unless you have a severe burn, like a sunburn, windburn,
you put more on.
In those situations, I'm like, I want you to coat it and just go sit down and let as much of it soak in as possible.
That's a good use for it, by the way. If you get sunburned, load up with lard and tallow. Load up with Farrow's skin. It'll help you heal faster.
It works great as a preemptive sun. It's not a sunscreen, but it's equipping your skin with the vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and also not disrupting your microbiome. We've got this thin layer of bugs all over us. Do they block the sun? I don't know. But there's a layer of bugs between the sun and my skin and your skin. So but yeah, it works great as a sort of pre-sun skin prep. Also moisturizes your skin, obviously. Moist skin is more equipped to handle its environment than dry skin. And so yeah, I encourage folks to use it pre and post acute skincare conditions, burns, acne, bug bites. I haven't itched in 3 years.
Wow.
What is itching, Ben?
What is itching?
Yeah, can I give you a definition?
Yeah, please.
Itching is dry skin stretching. Okay?
Yeah.
So if my skin's dry and a mosquito bites me, okay, my skin's going to swell. The little mosquito bite, it swells up. Well, if my skin is dry, that swelling is going to, on a very microscopic level, crack my outer layers of my skin. That's where the itch comes from. And so, my poor kids, they're 10 and 12 now, or almost 12. Chiggers, mosquito bites, cuts, scrapes, bruises, bumps, sunburn, windburn, you name it. It's like the Windex in my big fat Greek wedding. It's just like we put it on everything, and it's quite remarkable at fending off itching.
That's good to know.
Yep.
Now we got to share the story about the lesson that I learned recently. You came over a couple days ago, right when you got to Miami, to plunge with me in the backyard, and we were talking about this podcast that we were going to record today. And I was telling you, Charles, that I had a traveling coming up, and I've been doing a lot of travel, and I had ran out of your products, and I needed something like within 24 hours. And I have Amazon Prime, and I could get something within 24 hours usually. So I just went on Amazon and I looked for beef tallow, skin cream, and I came across a company that said, I actually have it here. It said grass-fed beef tallow balm, and it looked legit. It said grass-fed beef tallow, and I said, all right, and it said I could get it within 24 hours, so I ordered it, got it before I left for my trip, and when I opened it up initially, I looked at it, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't look like beef tallow or lard that I've used in the past. Then I smelled it, and then I was like, it doesn't smell like beef tallow or lard. It smells like lotion. It smells like, typical moisturizer. And then I put it on, and it felt different. And I thought that there's something fishy about this. And so then I told you about this, and I want you to investigate it, which you did, but share your insights on this product that I purchased and some of the lessons that I've learned here.
Sure. So you're seeing more and more of this. You ordered it on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, not to pick on a country, but there's a lot of Chinese copies and stuff that ends up on Amazon and some of these other sites that produce extremely cheap products and leaning into what's working in America. And tallow's hot right now. And so you showed me, what's funny is you're telling me the story and you showed me the product on your phone. You didn't have it with you. And so I'm looking at the pictures. And so the first thing I noticed is scrolling through the pictures, I don't see the ingredients, right? So that was the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed is, who is this? Is this a brand? Because I'd never heard, it says at the top, it says grass-fed beef tallow, which doesn't mean anything. And then tallow balm, there's no company name on here. Natural Body Cream, it says. Nice packaging. I scroll it over on the back. I should have brought my readers. But its product name is Tallow Balm. Component is grass-fed beef tallow. There's no ingredient list on here. And just like you, I opened it up. I looked at it. I smelled it. And you remember the first thing I said? There's definitely a preservative and an emulsifier. There's chemicals in here. This is definitely an emulsified cream. I can tell due to the consistency. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not that that's necessarily bad, right? We were talking a little bit about this element debacle with the maltodextrin and all that. It's not necessarily that it's bad for this, that, or the other. It's just that if it's in here, it needs to be on the ingredients. And to whatever degree, let's just say Amazon is responsible for putting products on its platform that at the very least. So with the FDA and regulations, one of their staunchest areas of regulation has to do with labeling and ingredients. I can tell you right now, this product is in direct violation of the FDA policies around labeling.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, they're probably getting away with it. The FDA is worried about, raw milk and all these other nutrient-dense things. And so yeah, I mean, this is not surprising, but it's also, ironically, I think I told you this when you brought this up. Over the weekend, I was at the Weston A. Price conference in Orlando, and over the weekend, I had someone come to my booth, and they're like, yeah, I just tried this tallow product, and it felt super creamy. And I thought, my head went to, okay, it's a tallow product, it's super creamy. Maybe they're cutting it with olive oil. Maybe that, there's something in there. And then I get here to you, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize there were a bunch of fake, faux. I'm not saying this product is bad.
I hear what you're saying.
I'm implying that it is.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, the fact that they're not disclosing the ingredients, it says component beef tallow. That's all it says, and it doesn't have a company name. Very suspicious. I'm definitely not using it anymore, but very, very suspicious.
Minerals, minerals, minerals. You hear a lot of people out there speaking about the benefits of taking minerals, and it is important because in this day and age, our crops, our fruits, and our vegetables, they are depleted of minerals. So you've heard of the keto flu, you've heard of symptoms doing keto and fasting. People just don't feel good sometimes. This is the number one reason why. So my go-to for replenishing my electrolytes and my minerals, for enhancing my immune system, for gut support, for detoxification, is Bean Minerals. It has fulvic and humic compounds, and these have over 70 trace minerals and really important electrolytes to replenish your body with. Check out Bean Minerals over at beanminerals.com. Use the coupon code Azadi, my last name, at checkout to get a nice discount. That is AZADI at checkout over at beanminerals.com.
The three big, skincare, there's three big areas as it relates to the FDA, okay? There's the ingredients. There is a form of communication that needs to be somewhere on the product. Ergo, I use this product, it does not agree with me, or there's a problem, I need to know who made it and where it came from. And then the third piece, which is where most people try to stay out of trouble, is, are you making any claims? Medical, using the term healing. No, you can't say healing. Maybe you can say soothing. When I launched the site, we had to go through all the copy, and
I'm sure
an attorney looked at it to make sure we weren't saying anything that could be viewed by the FDA as making a medical claim.
Yeah.
Okay. None of that is on this product.
No.
And what I'm imagining, was it at the top of your search engine?
Yes.
When you went to Amazon?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're pumping some money into some algorithms to drive this thing.
A lot of reviews too. A lot of ratings and reviews, which is interesting.
From the bot farm and
correct. Yeah. There's a lot of
the Philippines, right?
A lot of manipulation.
Yeah. So again, this is again, I'm not to pick on China, but they do a lot of this. This is a foreign product that is leaning into look, they know the algorithms. Tallow's hot right now, and I love, Van Man, Toops & Co. was just at the Weston A. Price. I love Emily Toops, and she's amazing. We don't have, there's another brand for your listeners out there. We don't offer makeup. She's in the makeup space.
Right.
We might be there one day. But, this garbage is a foreign company making very inferior products, leaning into a craze, because it's, I mean, again, open up your Instagrams or your
Beef tallow is everywhere.
Beef tallow is everywhere. And so
Charles, so that's a lesson learned. So hopefully that lesson, you don't make the same mistake that I did. You want to go with the quality company. That's why I choose Farrow. Last thing here, Charles, couple things here. Metabolic Freedom is the name of the new podcast. Of course, it used to be called Keto Camp Podcast. It's the name of the new book coming out next year. Essentially, metabolic freedom is metabolic flexibility, having a metabolism that's designed to use whatever substrate is available for energy, whether that's our body fat or fat on your plate of food, protein, carbs, whatever it is, having a functioning metabolism. So what are your 3 favorite ways to achieve metabolic freedom?
Oh, goodness. Sleep.
Yeah.
It's the hardest one, but I try to prioritize it.
Yeah.
So sleep is a big one. Again, just incorporating, I chronically undereat. I don't eat enough fat. I travel a lot. The meat sticks are easy. The biltong, man, I've been crazy biltonging lately. Yeah. Some great brands in the space. I was a jerky guy, but the prep process between biltong and jerky allows you to make biltong with far fewer, if any, preservatives, just because of the curative process. Anyway, so yeah, just make sure you're getting enough calories, preferentially from obviously real food, but I would say animal-based food. And I have you to thank for the third piece. This entrepreneurial thing is tough. I've got day job and all that, but the vitamin G and making sure I'm giving enough vitamin G to others, that's been really helpful for just stress. I mean, metabolic health, you've got the nutritional component, but you've also got the mental component. And so, yeah. And I've obviously not put anything on my skin that's going to disrupt my microbiome. Metabolic health, we're still unpacking, Ben, the real impact that these bugs and the real relationships that these bugs, I mean, we know intuitively that a lot of the microbiome in our gut is on the front line of whether it's leptin or ghrelin signaling and all these various compounds and hormones that really drive, whether it's our satiety, or our hunger, again, specifically around the GI tract. And so intuitively, that tells me that these bugs that inhabit our hair follicles and our skin, different microbiome in your pits where it's warm and wet than, your kneecaps. And so do they play a role? Absolutely. Do we know, can we pinpoint it down to this, that, or the other? Not yet. But maybe one day we will. It's probably going to cost Big Pharma a lot of money, so I don't know who's going to pay for that research. But yeah, sleep, animal-based nutrition, and plenty of vitamin G, giving and receiving.
I love it, Charles. The website for Farrow is farrow.life/KetoCamp. The coupon code is KetoCamp, camp with a K, for 15% off. We'll put it down below. Where else do you want them to go, Charles, to check you out?
At Farrow Skin is our Instagram, and X. Do I do that now? I always want to say Twitter. Most active on Instagram. I'm sort of trying to figure out my relationship with X moving forward. Love the platform. It's just social media and me, man, it's not birds of a feather. So just trying to figure out how to lean into that. I'm usually a phone in the pocket kind of guy, but those are the 2 big spots to find us. In the coming months, we'll figure out TikTok and TikTok Shop. But
awesome.
Yeah,
we'll put it all down below for you watching and for those listening as well. Vitamin G is gratitude. For those who are wondering, by the way, vitamin G is the practice of gratitude. Gratitude is it's an emotional practice, not an intellectual practice. So the last thing I'll ask you, because you even brought up vitamin G, and I always close out the show with the question, what do you have vitamin G for today, Charles?
I just spent 3 days in Orlando, Florida for the Weston A. Price Conference. Our keynote speaker there was Thomas Massie. And if you don't know Congressman Massie, he's out of the 4th District in Kentucky. My products are born out of the regenerative agriculture movement, and Representative Massie is I believe he's the most common sense, most pro-food freedom congressman in the country. He was the keynote speaker. He's also, I think, chairman of the Finance Committee now at Congress. and he spoke, told some great stories. I have a lot of gratitude for the work that he does and continues to do. He's also very, very plugged into just how much our debt is growing. He built, smart guy, and he lost his wife of many years earlier this year. And so I had a chance to see him, thank him for everything he's doing, obviously, and personally give my condolences to him. But I have a great deal of gratitude for him and the work that Weston A. Price is doing in just terms of food freedom and food access. So there.
If you enjoyed that chat, be sure to watch this next video with Dr. Philip Azadi, a world-renowned heart surgeon, all about heart disease.
Heart disease remains the #1 killer by a pretty wide margin. It was sugar is causing heart disease, or it was dietary cholesterol and saturated fat is causing heart disease.